Jealousy and envy. Envy and jealousy are tormenting emotions, especially jealousy when it comes to romantic relationships. It's some of the most unpleasant emotions I've ever experienced. And they require great skill to prevent harm to ourselves and others. There are many different ways of defining these two words, but for this card, let's define jealousy as the fear of losing a significant other to someone else, while envy is coveting what another or others have or that you think they have. And these definitions are not perfect because you can be jealous because it's not just a fear, you did lose a significant other to someone else. When we don't own the inner wholeness we already have, we tend to envy others who seem to have what we associate with wholeness or higher status. Envy is when we are caught in the malign enchantment of the external objects, the glittering bodies, money, and worldly goods that the Babylon matrix glitters before our eyes, keeping our attention focused on the outer world and away from our inner power. We can spend an entire incarnation resentfully comparing ourselves to others who appear better off than us. But sometimes the things that we envy are things that would be really cool if we had them. Uh, for example, maybe you have to work a 9 to 5 job and to pay the bills, and that doesn't give you enough time for creativity. And it's enviable to know about somebody like me that has a slight independent means and uh, a pension and that kind of thing, and have more time to create. I would envy that when I was younger and didn't have that. Sometimes the things we envy are actual valuable resources, but the envy itself doesn't help us to capture any of those resources or to make use of the resources that we do have, which is always what we should be doing because right now I've got more time to create, a little bit more financial freedom, but then I'm older. I've got to deal with the limitations of that. There are other things. My limited funds may run out, all that kind of stuff. I can always find somebody else to envy, but right now I'm just going to make good use of the resources at hand and what I have right now. If I go broke in the future, then I'll deal with that when it happens. There is, however, a dynamic paradox between the illusory phantom aspect of envy, projecting wholeness into the outer world where it will forever elude our grasp, and the objective reality that life isn't fair and that every sort of quality and resource are unevenly distributed. Intelligence, health, beauty, money, athleticism, social status, attractive partners, real estate, and consumer goods are some of the major unequally distributed variables, and a lot of them are quite valuable to have. We are most likely to envy those qualities or things that we have or think we have in least supply. For example, an older person may envy youth, while a young person from a poor family may envy wealth. Everyone can think of one or more qualities or resources we would like to have more of. You can always find people who are better or worse off than you are. Unhappy, envious people make what are called upward comparisons to those who seem better off in various ways. Happier folks make downward comparisons to the less fortunate to increase their gratitude and life satisfaction. Either of these tendencies can prevail regardless of one's position in life. For example, someone may have several $100 million and live in a beautiful house in one of the wealthier parts of the country, but their neighbor is a multi-billionaire and they can't even afford a super yacht. I use downward comparison to boost my morale and gratitude. For example, at the moment, I'm grateful that I have two 5-fingered hands in perfect working order that are allowing me to touch type this card when I was writing the card. Maybe you have 10 fingers too. Not everybody does. That's something that makes everything way more convenient. I inherited good cognitive abilities and was given many educational opportunities that also allow me to work on this card. I had highly intellectual parents and who supported me in every part of my education. But I also grew up in the Bronx where I was subject to violence and abuse during the worst time to live in that borough. I envied people who lived in the suburbs, but so we can always find things that could be better, but it's more important to focus on the things that we can be grateful for because that makes us more functional. It makes us more optimistic and more able to make use of the resources that we do have. Those grateful feelings help my morale. On the other hand, if I let myself dwell on others who are wealthier, better looking, younger, whatever, all I do is make myself miserable. It doesn't give me anything. But there are usually exceptions to all one size fits all formulations. For example, some competitive folks use upward comparison to motivate themselves toward accomplishment. There are also people who make downward comparisons to inflate stagnant self-satisfaction when they would benefit from improving themselves. Similarly, jealousy is a dynamic paradox between dangerous paranoia and necessary social perception. For example, if your eros authentically requires a monogamous love relationship, but you're with a polyamorous lover, then the feeling of jealousy may be catalyzing a necessary change of circumstance. This change should not involve either party seeking to control or change the authentic eros of the other, but it should involve honest confrontation with the truth of the situation. The solution may involve creative compromises, or it might be a fundamental incompatibility necessitating separation. Let me unpack that a bit because really I'm talking there about conflicts that come up a lot in some of the social circles that I travel in between polyamory, which more people are more likely to, on the left, to advocate for as superior to monogamy. And so in advising people about this, I have come to a position I think is fairly unassailable. Go ahead and try and assail it if you can. One is not better than the other. It's like saying that, it's like making a case for gay versus or straight. These are just irreducible differences in people's eros. You could make a case of why it's better to be straight. You have more opportunities because more people are heterosexual, so you have more people to choose from. You may be less likely to face discrimination or gay bashing violence, or so forth. But that case doesn't matter because it's an irreducible factor. If you're gay, it doesn't help you to know learning advantages of not being gay are meaningless because you don't have that choice. And so when it comes to monogamy and polyamory, I think these are irreducible differences in eros. And if one person tries to convince a person who leans the different way than they do of why monogamy is better, and you can make a case for that. Like you can just fly from one superficial relationship to another, but with monogamy, you develop more because you have to go deeper into the single relationship. And then the polyamory folks have their reasons, and they say like monogamy means ownership of others, which is nonsensical because harems, you can be polyamorous and own people and make them sex slaves. There is good and evil versions of polyamory and monogamy. So these need to be, people need to recognize that, and it might just be a deal breaker. Just like if your partner is gay and you aren't, that might be a deal breaker. But you or there can be some very creative compromise in some cases, which would require a lot of negotiation and communication and that type of thing. The positive aspect is that this is an auspicious time to work on your relationship to envy and jealousy. And there's some very relevant links at the end of this card.